Okay, welcome back everybody. It's great to have you here. Now, first off, I have to apologize. Voice is a little cracky. Been fighting a cold the last few days and I'm kind of coming out of it, but kind of cracking a little bit. I want to show you guys, we got a delivery of lumber into the shop yesterday. Also, I've got an old radial arm saw. I need to get rid of that thing. It looks really bad. I've got a whole bunch of 8/4 rift white oak right here. This is for Matt Carricker's dining room table for his new mansion he's been fixing up. We're going to be building that soon. Really giant slabs of poplar. It's always a pain when they send you that long of a board. Those are long boards. These are for more cannon carriages for the Alamo. I got 3 more, not carriages, I'm sorry. I got 3 more, golly, my brain's not working. I got 3 more patterns to turn. So 3 more patterns to turn on the lathe. Oh, freaking praying mantis. Didn't even notice him. Check that guy out. Wait, is he alive? Yeah, he's alive. Almost touched him. Yeah, so we got 3 more patterns to make on the lathe, and then there's some cypress in there for the argosy. Do some framing out work on the argosy. Let's go inside. I want to show you what I've been working on. Okay, so this is it right here. I've been working on this for a while now. I've got about 70 shop hours in it. I'll probably put another 10 into it to get it all finished and done. And that spans out over the course of probably over a month and a half. And that's a huge problem. And that's one thing I want to talk about in this video. This thing has created a lot of problems for me. It's really opened my eyes to some real issues I have in the production of my business and making furniture. I got to get focused. I got to make some changes because I'm jumping around between content creation and furniture. I'm not very dialed in. And because of that lack of focus, I made some mistakes on this piece. And I want to show you those because we've all heard this saying, every good woodworker knows how to fix his mistakes. And there's some truth in that, but I would argue that the best thing to do is not make the mistakes. And if you are making the mistakes, figure out why. And so that's what this piece has kind of shown me. I do want to show you how I've made some of these mistakes and how I fixed them. And we want to talk a little bit about the channel and the business because a lot is happening with my business. Things are growing. I've got growing pains and I've got some solutions coming. A lot of big changes happening. I'm really excited about. I want to bring y'all along for that. But first, let's walk through this build. I want to tell you about it real quick. It's got a knee space right here. We've got 2 cool little pencil drawers. I got hand cut dovetails. I've still got to make the bottoms for these. A really nice top with veneer, and it's got a slight radius to the front. And we got these cool grilled doors that are going to be storage for his records. So his records go in here, and he's got an old vintage record player. It's going to sit right here. It's kind of a cool hybrid piece between a desk and a record console. He wants to have a space to sit and work, but also a place to put his record player. So let's walk through some of this. I'm going to show you some of the highlights, and we're going to see some of the mistakes that I made, unfortunately. Now this piece starts with a side frame, so we've got the 2 legs. These are going to have tapers in them. They're going to go the whole length of the leg from the top to the bottom. I start by cutting those out on the bandsaw. I tape them together and do 2 at once, which is a nice technique because it keeps everything the same. I can tape them up, cut them on the bandsaw, and then bring them to my workbench and hand plane them to the exact same tapers. And the one reason we want these to be the exact same across all 4 legs is because we are not going to have a square place for a shoulder. So these rails are coming in and having to angle, and so we want to make sure the tapers are the same so all the rails will be the same length. We won't have to have variations and a bunch of parts sized differently. It becomes a total mess. So that's one of the reasons why I want to dial these in and keep them the exact same, and the tape technique works really well. Now, since we don't have square shoulders, it's really presents a challenge to cut the joiner because we need mortise and tenon joints here. We need strength. And so I use my Lee FMT router jig with a plunge router and actually cut what's called floating tenons. So instead of cutting a mortise in your leg and a dedicated tenon in your rail, we're going to cut mortises in both the leg and the rail, and then we'll angle the rail ends to match the taper on the legs, and then we'll just put floating tenons in there. So we'll make the tenon material just like you would a Festool domino or something of that nature, just a lot larger and more stout. We'll make that tenon, round it off, and put it in there, and that'll be the joinery for these side frames. Okay, a quick rundown on what just happened there. I don't know if you could see it in that last shot, but this tore out really badly. I had the wrong bit in the machine. I was being a little lazy. I didn't want to swap them out. So there's most of the work I do is with these spiral bits, and there's two different types. There's an upcut and a down cut. And the way you can tell is if you rotate it the way it's supposed to cut, you see the line, the light reflection. If it's going down, it's a down cut bit, so you can see that reflection going down. And if it's going the opposite, as you rotate it the way it should cut, it would be an upcut bit. What I have on the machine right now, and we'll go look at that so I can show you. So you can see on this one, we turn it the way it's supposed to cut, and you see that light reflection going up. So this is an upcut bit. So what's happening is, as it cuts, it's pulling the fibers up. It's unsupported fibers on top, so it's just chipping this plywood out. I didn't think it would be this bad, but man, it was pretty rough. So what I should have done is not been lazy and put in this bit, so as it cuts, it's doing the opposite. The force is down, and these are supported fibers, so it's going to cut them nice and clean. Now at the bottom it can chip out, but we've got a spoil board on the bottom, so we can cut into that, and that supports the fibers, and you don't get any chip out. So lesson learned, make sure you put the right bit in. So we've cut out this top piece. It has that slight curve we're going for on the front. We're trying to cut a matching piece that's going to band it so we don't see that plywood edge. That's on the CNC bed. Now it's too long. I'm just finding out now that its actual length, cutout length, is 60 inches, which this is a 5x5, but the machine is not liking it. It's hitting the limit switches and stopping. So what I need to do is actually go back to the computer and tile this and do it in 2 sections. So I thought this would be a really fast, quick way to do this, but it's turning out to be a bit of work. But I'm learning, so that's all that really matters. So you've seen how I use the CNC to make this front banding and to make this cool profile. When I glue this onto the substrate, I like to use dominoes, mostly because I want to level it out. The dominoes aren't really providing any strength to it. They're more keeping everything in line. And so I can run it through the wide belt and take just a little bit off and get everything flattened out. You don't want to have to run your substrate through the wide belt too much because you'll take that top layer of veneer off. You don't have a lot of room to run it. So we want to make sure those line up really well. All right, so check it out. This is SimpliSafe's brand new outdoor security camera, which I'm pretty pumped about. I've looked at the specs about this online, and this thing has some amazing features. I'm gonna go hook this up and show you guys what it can do. Huh, it worked. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, got the camera set up. It's working great. Now, in case you're not familiar with SimpliSafe, they make a 100% customizable home security system. It monitors your house 24/7. I have one set up in the shop and in my house. Now, they have just introduced this brand new outdoor camera. I have a front door doorbell camera that's incredible, but this thing steps it up a notch. It has 1080 HD picture. You can zoom 8 times in. So if someone drives up here that shouldn't be here and does something they shouldn't do, I can zoom in and get their license plate number. It also has a 140-degree field of view and a built-in spotlight that does color night vision. That way you can keep an eye on what's going on around the clock. Even at night, I can see what's happening out here. It also has a built-in microphone system, so it has a two-way setup. I can talk to someone and they can talk to me. I can also hear anything that's going on out here through the app on my phone. I've got a 150-degree view of my entire front parking area, lawn, and door. So I got you covered. If anyone tried to take something valuable from the shop, or maybe even the Argosy. Okay, so I know that's not exactly fail-proof. I wouldn't be able to stop them from taking the Argosy, but at least I can see who's doing it. And what happens is when that camera detects motion, it leaves a notification on my phone, so I can immediately see that, call the police, and they can start looking for them. That's the great thing about SimpliSafe's interactive security system. It's monitoring your home 24/7, and if the alarm goes off, it's calling the police, and they're going to show up. I promise you, it's happened to me. The best part about this is SimpliSafe is offering my viewers 20% off your security system plus 1 free month of interactive monitoring. Just go to simplisafe.com/AndyRawls and take advantage of that deal right now. I promise you won't be disappointed. I've been using this for 3+ years, and I really like the system a lot, and I am pretty pumped to have the camera in front of the house now. A huge thanks to SimpliSafe for being such great supporters of the channel. Let's get back to working on this desk. All right, so these are the top rails that are creating the structure to the frame. These get dovetailed in. This is a pretty standard way to make top rails where you have drawers. These have shoulders to them, so they reference the, they all reference together to the same point on the shoulders, and then they also have the dovetail, which given the mechanical advantage that keeps them from coming apart. So I'll use the router, I'll take the waste out, and then I'll use my chisel to clear out the rest of the waste and go right to my line. Now I've pre-made the whole bottom frame that has the drawer rails and the drawer bearers. This is already glued up, and I've already cut that sliding dovetail into it. So I'm transferring it over to that top rail that we just cut dovetails into, because I'm going to need to put a divider there. And so what I do first is I set up my little palm router with a 1/4-inch bit, and I just take a dado all the way across. It takes the bulk of the waste out. So I'm just clearing waste out with this router, and then I'll come back with the big router and use the actual dovetail bit and make one pass to cut that dovetail. And you really couldn't do it if you didn't take the waste out, because it would be too much material for that bit to remove. That's why we take the waste out first and then come back with the dovetail bit. And a quick check shows that everything lines up the way it should. This is a SOSS hinge. I'm going to be using this for the hinges on this record. Desk, console / whatever you want to call it. First thing we got to do is make a jig. So I've already set up on the CNC and cut out a hole for a 3/4 bushing. And that will ride basically in the hole we just cut on the CNC. And if we got our numbers right and calculations right, it will cut a mortise to fit this perfectly. I've got a 3/8 bit on the router. So basically the bushing is just riding in that hole. It's slightly oversized to the bushing. This probably will take a couple shots to get it dialed in and right. That's why I'm just doing it on a big sheet of 3/4, and then once I've got the hole size right, I'll cut it down and actually make the jig. So I'm gonna do my first test run now, cut it out and see how this fits, and then we'll make adjustments as needed. Shoo! So close. Okay, so it fits just perfect on the width here, but we're a little bit short. You can see that's not quite clearing going in. So, slight adjustment on our program and we'll recut. Okay, there she is. 4 test runs, but I've got a nice fit right here. Press it right down in there. That is looking good. So now we go ahead and mortise the box sides, and then we'll build the door and mortise that. So I wanted to go ahead and mortise the sides on the case before we put it together. Obviously, it'd be really hard to get in there and do that after it's assembled. Okay, so here is where I made one pretty sizable mistake with these hinges. We've all done it. You get the instructions to something, you throw it out because you think you know how to do it already. It's a mistake that every man has made, and I made it here. So I just assumed, I've actually done these before, and I just assumed that I could center these mortises in the center of the door, and that would be my setback. Well, that's not right. So you have a very specific setback about how far these need to go off the face of the cabinet. So they were too deep, and so these actually wouldn't open. So they were hitting about here and fighting and resisting, and that just isn't going to work. It was actually a really pretty big issue because you can't mortise the case. You can't remortise the case once it's all glued up. You can't get a router in there. You can't do anything. That's why I did it all before I glued it. And so what I had to do was I had to actually fill the holes, the mortises on the case. I used this jig, so this is what we ended up coming out with. And I made a jig that I could use a Forstner bit. So I basically plunged several holes into a piece of wood, laid that on here, and then I could use a Forstner bit and drill it out exactly how it needed to be and come out with a chisel and chisel it out. It was a really poor mistake and a lot of extra work on my part, and it shouldn't have been made. I shouldn't have made that mistake. I should have been focused. I had to actually, too, take the doors and run them through the wide belt, take a little bit off the thickness so that I could, you know, get that hinge, that mortise a little bit closer to the edge of the door to help it to open. So you can see the fill line right there. That's, I mean, that is not much that I had to move it over, but that was enough to affect how these hinges operated. Same thing up top. Okay, so the glue up on this piece was actually pretty challenging because it had to all be done in one run. Basically, we had to glue the back panel in, glue the sides into this drawer frame, glue the drawer frame into a dado on this box, and glue the box to the back of that, and glue the box to this whole side frame. It was a little bit stressful. I used a veneer. I used my veneer glue actually because it has a slow open time. It gives me plenty of time to glue it all up, and luckily I had my dad's help, and I've got a little time lapse of that to show you now. Now we talked a little bit about this earlier in the video, but once we glue up the case, we can add in this little drawer divider. So we have to cut the dovetails that slide into the dovetail. That makes sense. And I cut those on the router table, so I do a test piece first. I'll make 2 or 3 of these before I get it dialed, the setting dialed in, the height and the fence. And you can see in one pass I can cut out that dovetail, and then it'll just slide right in to that opening. You want to make sure that you have the height right, because you don't want to suck your drawer opening down or push it up. You want it to be the same across the whole width. And then that back piece, you can tell, slides into a dado, which is not a dovetail, it's just a 1/4 inch dado that meets into that dovetail. And so we're going to take that block that we just made and then this long piece, and we're going to domino and go ahead and glue those together and make them all one unit. And then we'll come back, and once that glue sets, we'll glue that whole one unit into the actual drawer frame, and then it'll be permanent. Okay, that did not work, and yeah, I feel a little dumb on this one. I really honestly a lot of times don't share this content because these are the mistakes you don't want people to see, but you know, I'm learning this machine, and I can tell you immediately I knew a lot of things I did wrong, and I didn't even think about it. So the depth of pass, let's start with that. This is cutting 3/8 deep. For one, that's probably too deep. I've already changed it to 1/4, and trying to take it in 2 passes is stupid. It's too aggressive, too much material coming off. So I changed it to 4 passes, about a 1/16 per pass. So hopefully that just kind of makes this way less aggressive of a cut. You could tell this thing was moving in here, and it just, yeah, it was not going well. So, and I put these pieces in here, which I didn't secure well enough, obviously, to help protect from any blowout, and that obviously didn't work because we got blowout all in here. So gotta fix this now. So I'm gonna spend the next probably 30 minutes to an hour repairing this. All right, so I just took this over to the router table and took off that face that we cut through all the way down, and I've got the edges here to chisel out, and then we'll just make a piece and glue it right on there to replace it and move forward from there. So what I'll do now is go ahead and glue these. Actually, the grain looks really good with the other door, so it's actually an improvement, but it is going to be noticeable when you flip the door open, but hopefully that glue line will hide pretty good. I'm going to use an epoxy because epoxy just fills gaps really well, and we can get a little bit more strength because we actually do have a mortise and tenon here, and we cut into our tenon a little bit there, which, you know, if it was a big heavy door, wouldn't be a good thing. This is a pretty lightweight door that's not going to take a lot of abuse, so getting some epoxy in there and getting this all clamped in, I think it's going to be plenty strong. You know, using normal Type Bond 2, you got spots like that that are kind of an issue, so the epoxy will drop in there and fill all that up and still have a good strong bond. Okay, round two. This is the other door. If this one doesn't work, then I'm just going to find a different way to do this. I've got the pump running back here, which provides the suction to the table. That way I have everything secured. You can see it's really locked down this time. I'm not going to have any issues. I've got boards on both sides, so the cut is going to happen in this one, and these will protect the blowout. These are nailed down much better. It turns out last time I didn't have very long nails in, so they weren't really going into the plywood much. This is a much better setup. Also, we're taking a 1/16 on each pass, and we're going slower as far as the feed rate goes. So, you know, cross our fingers again. We'll see how this goes. Okay, there it is. That worked out so much better. Spacing looks really good. Everything's even. I did hit a nail. Only thing I did wrong was I hit the nail right in there. So definitely chipped my tooling, unfortunately, which is a super big bummer. Feels good though to figure this out, to get it right. I know a lot of people are thinking, well, isn't that really fragile? You know, your cross grain, those could break, and it is very fragile. But once we lay in the grill, you know, it's all gonna, once we glue in the grill pieces, it'll all be nice and strong and won't be an issue. So we gotta let the other one dry. We can drop it in and we can get these done. These blocks worked great and keeping from getting any blowout, so it's a real clean cut. You can see a little nick. Those aren't cheap. Okay, so once we got all those kind of grooves figured out, I learned a lot on this one. The next step was actually putting in the grill. So I milled those out and we just glued each one in with epoxy. So the reason I use epoxy here is Type Bond or any water-based glue is going to cause issues with your finish, and this is just messy. It's really hard to keep glue from getting down in there or, you know, on the back side. And I know with epoxy, if I do get any glue in there and it gets on the wood, I can sand it a little bit and just finish right over it, and it'll just blend in with the finish. So that's a great thing about epoxy. Plus I have a lot of time, a lot of open time with epoxy. So I love the way it looked. I love the way it came out. These do actually have a shoulder here, so when they step in, they shoulder up to this, which makes it a little bit easier to install them. It kind of lines everything up. So now I will say that I'm not looking forward to finishing these. This is going to have an oil finish, and getting finished down in there is going to be a pain. I contemplated finishing them before I put them together, but it just would have kind of been a pain. You still have to get finished. You don't want to get finished in there because then you're not going to get good glue adhesion. So we're going to try to get in there with a brush and finish these. It'll be a bit of a pain, but I think it's worth it for the look. Okay, so that's it. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I have to apologize for my voice being cracky and all messed up. I know you guys probably don't care, but I feel kind of bad. It doesn't sound too good. A few things I didn't hit in the video that I think are cool is these little pillowed, kind of rounded front edges to these legs. I love this quarter sawn kind of curly figure here on the side. And then you got the flat sawn book match top. And then if you come around to the back, you got a beautiful quarter sawn veneered back panel. This is going to go against the couch But if it ever went out in the middle of a office or room, it would look pretty stunning just seeing it from the backside. We also have the hand cut dovetails. Can't go without those. Gotta have the dovetails in there. Really all that's left on this is to make the drawer bottoms and final sand everything and put in some hardware on the doors. There's a little catch, touch catch, so you'll push them in, they'll catch like that, and then you push them and they pop out. So that's a piece of hardware I'll put in there. If you want to see this finished and you don't follow me on Instagram, that would be a great way for you to see it. I will try to include it finished in the next video if I can. It just didn't work out to where I got it all the way to finished for this video, but that's okay. I think we're 90% of the way there and you can really appreciate what we got. I want to show one last mistake that I didn't highlight, but that dado was in the wrong place. We had to drop it down and I got to fix that. So what we'll do here is I'll find a piece of wood that matches this grain and I'll route it out. That's my line right there. Right out about 1/8 of an inch and just drop a piece in there and hand plane it down. You'll never know it was there. I can hide it really well. But you know, that's another mistake I made that really just kind of beat me up on this piece. Okay, so closing down this video, I do want to speak a little bit, if you're still with me, I appreciate it. I do want to speak a little bit to what's going on with the channel. So I've had a hard time in the last couple of years making a full commitment to either this furniture business or to the YouTube channel, and I've finally decided where my priorities lay and where I think I'm going over the next 5 years, and that's my furniture business. It has grown a lot. I have built a pretty sizable backlog, and I am incredibly way behind on it. So this is no longer going to be a one-man shop. I've hired someone to come in and take over and help with the production. I want you guys to know that I'm not giving up on YouTube. YouTube's just going to change a little bit. I'm still committed to the Argosy videos. You might see less of what you traditionally saw from my channel because when you have someone in here working in the shop, it's going to be running 8 hours a day, which is exactly what we need because we got a lot of furniture to build. It changes how you film things. It changes how things go. This was a different format video than I normally do, so you might see more of this style videos moving forward. You're going to see me interacting with apprentice. You're going to see a lot more action of what's going on in the shop with the business. So I hope that's exciting for you. I had to commit to the furniture stuff. That is where my passion is, and that is what is kind of taking off right now. And the YouTube channel is just going to come right along behind it. And I hope that I hope it works. I obviously don't want to lose y'all's interest in the content. So I hope you're excited about that. I promise you I'll make it really cool. And I think there's a lot of new, really cool things that are going to be happening having an employee in the shop. So that's going to be happening over the next couple of months. Be on the lookout for that. I'll make an official announcement when that happens. Sorry, my voice is still cracking. I'm going to go probably lay down and rest. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you next time.